Hey, how are you? This is Daniel Rizendi, and today we're going to have an international look on the best passport in the Global South. And this is the photo of the day. It's me in the Global South. I was in Indonesia. I was in Lombok having fun, just surfing every day, trying to surf every day. I'm a really bad surfer, but still, let's move on with the video. So, of course, the strongest political bloc in the Global South is quite clearly the BRICs. Regardless of what you personally believe about the future of each country individually, they boast a large share of global population and influence. So, being a part of the bloc in and of itself is generally a good thing in terms of geopolitics and the amount of influence that you can have. There's what originally, of course, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and kind of South Africa are the original members. But of course, new countries are joining pretty much every year, so it is expanding quite profoundly. Of course, also, just like you have the EU, just like you have NAFTA, just like you have the Trans-Tasmanian Agreement between Australia and New Zealand, or the Common Travel Area between the UK and Ireland, there are a lot of economic blocs in the Global South as well. So a few examples, Mercosur, the Andean Community, the Union of African States, and blocs in the Gulf region and Southeast Asia as well, like ASEAN. So being part of one or more of these blocs comes with clear advantages. Some of them are economic, some of them are freedom of movement, some of them are just visa-free travel, that sort of thing. Country that positions itself in interesting economic blocs in the Global South is, of course, a strong contender for a good passport. Another thing that's really relevant, of course, is where the country is actually located. So it's geographic regions. The Global South is basically composed of three regions: Latin America, Africa, and Asia. You can clearly see Latin America here, Africa here, and Asia here. It's pretty much, that's the Global South right there. The more connection and relations a country has with all three regions, the better positioned it is, or the better positioned it might be to take advantage of it in the future. Of course, if you have good relations, if you're in Latin America and you have good relation with African countries, that is a good thing in general for trades, for future economic developments, etc. And of course, I think this is one of the main things. This is one of the most important things, especially for nowadays, for current events, for current travel, is how your relation is with the first world. The better countries' cultural, economic, historical, and political relations with the West, the less likely it is to be hit with sanctions, trade wars, travel restrictions. It's more likely, of course, to have visa-free access to at least Europe, but also perhaps the US, Canada, etc., which directly benefits business, mobility, many other things for that country's citizens. So, an example, if you're from Iran, even if Iran had a great relation with the Global South, which it doesn't, it definitely doesn't have a good relation with the first world, which of course might limit your ability to travel, to do business, etc. If you've even been to Iran, you can't even go to America, for example, on an ESTA. So it is a really serious stuff. So Brazil might be the obvious choice here. You can see the visa-free travel map from Brazil here. Of course, pretty much all of Europe and Asia is free to go. Africa is quite green, actually, free to go to most African countries. And South America, of course, is where Brazil really shines, because not only can you live in Brazil, but you actually have freedom of movement and travel with just an ID card in most South American countries, not just because of Mercosur, but also because of associate states with Mercosur, like, for example, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile. So it is a really strong passport. Of course, what's lacking pretty much, other than a couple countries in the Middle East and North Africa, which not that many people want to do business with, but if you do, of course, that is something to consider. And then there's Australia, Mexico, Canada, and the US. Even New Zealand actually is visa-free for Brazilians. So it is indeed a very good passport. Turns out for virtually all of these reasons, it's the only BRICS country in Latin America. It's part of Mercosur. It's part of the Lusophone community. That's a community of Portuguese-speaking states. So, for example, Angola, Mozambique, they have clearly closer ties with Brazil than with other, let's say, Latin American or Asian countries. It has historical ties to Africa, being the country with the most amount of, the biggest black population outside of Africa because of the slave trade, and of course a lot of European migration as well, not just from Portugal, not just from Spain, but from Italy, from Germany, from Poland, from nearly all over Europe. It has very successfully positioned itself as a neutral player, so much so that pretty much all of the Global South in the World Cup, for example, they support Brazil because Brazil kind of represents them, against European countries, for example. And that has afforded it multiple benefits over the previous years. Now, current administrations might be trying to change that, might be trying to be a little less neutral, but overall, it has successfully been neutral for the last 50 to 100 years. So wrapping up, though passport strength is a very subjective topic, there is a good argument to be made that Brazil boasts one of the best passports in the Global South. Its large population, historical ties to Europe and Africa, and positioning in a largely neutral and peaceful region of the world afforded an excellent travel document and country perception far beyond mere tourist visas. Of course, South America is mostly peaceful. There's a slight tension between Venezuela and the West, for example, but that's not something that realistically in any way draws down to Brazil. And so it is a very strong contender for top-notch passport in the world. So tell me what you think in the comments. Would you like a Brazilian passport? Would you pass it? And I'll see you guys around.